what you said on paper.
All right. Every time I hear that, I'm like, well, we're falling quite short. America, be true to what you said on paper. But that paper was not written for all. So
it was not written for us.
Exactly. Good morning. Welcome back to At the Round Table with MAMLEO. I'm your host, Larry Elson. In studio, we're live this morning. In studio with my brother, Dr. Bradley, is in the house with us. Good morning, Dr. Bradley. How are you?
Good morning. I'm blessed and highly favored by the Lord, brother. Right. I am blessed and highly favored by the Lord. Right. God is good.
He is all the time. Good morning, Pastor Hobbs. How are you this morning, sir?
Phenomenal by the grace of God.
A little chilly there.
Yeah, I'm about to put on my Scully cap, Doc. You know what I mean? You know, we all looking like Kojak.
Well, that's Jamal calls there. I was going to bring him some lollipops, but they like to
Jamal like,
who loves you, baby?
Who loves you, baby? Yeah. Well, I'm about to put on my Scully cap here, Doc.
He's a funny guy. All right. We want to thank our sponsor, Guarantee Rate Mortgage Company. For all your mortgage needs, give branch manager Cora Holbrook a call at area code 781-342-0252. Guarantee Mortgage is located at 75 State Street in downtown Boston, Mass. Guarantee Rate Mortgage Company, guaranteed to exceed your expectations. Again, folks, the call-in number here is 617-282-0685. 617-282-0685 is the call-in number. You're listening to At the Round Table with MAMLEO. For folks, I know there's very little attention being given to, but there is an election on Tuesday in the city of Boston and around the Commonwealth in local city elections, state city councilors. But there doesn't seem to be much interest in it. I know people say it's an off year. There should never be an off year.
It's not for our people. Our people can't afford to have an off year.
Yeah. For this, you know, and folks take it for granted. So, with that said, but on the line, one of the candidates who's running, quite known, well known in helping us out here at MAMLEO, is Ben Weber is on the line. Good morning, Ben. How are you, sir? Do we have him? We have Ben? Ben, you there? Can you hear me?
Oh, my bad.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
Okay.
That was on our end. Sorry about that. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So, Ben, we're getting out to the finish line. Folks, you know, for folks who don't know you as well as I do, introduce yourself and tell them which district you are running for city council. It's not at large. You're running for the local city council race. As a matter of fact, you did well in the primary. You topped the ticket, being first time out. That's pretty impressive to be the lead vote getter. It doesn't mean you've still got to get across the finish line on Tuesday, but that's where you want to be at this stage of the game.
Yeah, thanks, Larry. For folks listening, my name is Ben Weber. I'm running for Boston City Council in District 6, which is most of Jamaica Plain, West Roxbury, a small slice of Roslindale, and sort of JP side of Mission Hill. I've been a workers' rights lawyer for 18 years, lived here 15 years with my wife, and have raised 2 kids in JP, both in the Boston public school system.
Yeah, and you're an attorney, and for folks who don't know, we want to thank you at MAMLEO, your team there at Licton and Reardon, is that you guys were part of really historically have been advocates for equality and access. And in fact, you guys were staples in several lawsuits against the city of Boston for the lack of exam access and disparity in police promotional exams in the Boston Police Department. And the recent one was a statewide decision with a $40 million judgment, which is unprecedented. That amount in the city, the state, taking responsibility, and the judge's acknowledgement of that this has been a practice that has been going on for so long, and you were one of the attorneys in that lawsuit on our behalf. So I want to say thank you and for your advocacy. And that's why I know someone like yourself would be if you're doing that from the outside, folks will have an advocate there trying to even the playing field for everyone so that everyone has access to the city services, also city employment in a way that we haven't seen. And what you've done so far is to unseat an incumbent, which is almost impossible here in the Commonwealth. I know it's a lot to unpack.
Quite surprising to me going into the preliminary. I was expecting to come in third, and that it would be a learning experience for me. I've been representing workers all across the country for 18 years. I started out representing migrant cotton gin workers in the Mississippi Delta with Texas Rural Legal Aid, and I moved up here, worked in the AG's office. I had a chance to work, on the police exam case, which they were using a written exam that was, not resulting in promotions of Black and Latino police officers, and both the union and the police department were okay with that. We filed our lawsuit. We got the federal court here to rule that this kind of testing process was discriminatory, and both in Boston and across the state, we've changed how they do promotions, and that process led me to see how we're doing the same thing to our kids in the testing system here, and that we saw the results in the sort of racial makeup of the student body at BLS, and I want to fight. My daughter is now in 6th grade, which we're going through the testing system for the second time thing with her, but we need a city that's going to treat everyone here fairly and use a system for these great schools that's going to put all of our kids on a level playing field too. And I think the city's making strides to doing that.
Right, so let's unpack a little what you said, because I'm glad you went. You anticipated my question. Is that Boston? The schools here are abysmal at best. Full disclosure, I work in the schools for the police department, and what I'm seeing every day should be troubling, not just for me but for anyone. And for someone like yourself who has the means, who could put your child in a private school and chooses to have your children in the Boston public school system, which I personally would not if I was here, if I had the means to do, just not because I didn't want them to interact, but because I see what takes place there, right? We spend $1.4 billion of the budget of an almost $6 billion budget, so it's not a financial issue that we're doing. What do you see that the city council, and you hopefully will be one of the newly elected city councilors, that can be done to change the situation? Because we keep throwing money at it, but we're not seeing any improvement. Matter of fact, it is still not known whether or not the state is going to take over receivership of the Boston public schools, because the only schools that seem to be really moving in the right direction or even maintaining are the ones that are exam. And not every school is an exam. And if you're not getting prepared to even take an exam, how is it that close to 90% of our kids are being left behind? And I think what doesn't get enough attention as well is the charter schools are being paid for by the city of Boston, by taxpayers, funded for a private institution where people are making a profit off of the education, but there's not a lot of education going on there as well.
It's sort of the Boston public schools, I think, has just been a problem and an issue for decades, and it's something that I want to be part of the solution. What I've seen, both my kids went to the Mission Hill School, which was shut down last year.
Oh, wow! So you really impacted by it.
Yeah, we saw how that happened, and we talk about all the money in BPS, and people cite it's something like $30,000 per student
31
being spent, but that's an average.
The highest in the country. Yeah.
But what we have here is a huge gap between the have and have-nots, and there's at Mission Hill School there often weren't the resources in place for kids. For example, my son is diagnosed with autism. He's high functioning, but he really had trouble with math, and they refused to put him on an IEP. And there was an incentive to try to deny those requests. I want to make sure, first of all, that the school budget is being allocated equitably across the system, so families, when they need special services, that they get them, and and that $30,000 per student is actually going to each student and not being sort of locked up in just, a few schools, which seem to be able to offer all the services, all the AP classes, have coaches for all the sports, whereas, other schools struggle to provide those basic things.
So, Ben, again, let's unpack that for a second there. And Dr. Bradley, who's also in academia, $1.4 billion, and it's somewhere around $31,000 per student, the highest per capita in the country we spend here in Boston. And yet we're not yielding any results. As a matter of fact, the last report that came out from the state was not that we were improving in that situation. It was only getting worse. Money doesn't seem to be the problem. I know you've outlined some things there that aren't being done. In the city council, they changed the structuring, giving themselves a little bit more authority and things, but still Boston is a mayor-strong city where a lot of cities and towns, the mayor is a ceremonial position. But barring that, what do you think can be changed at the city council level to get, it's not resources, but the right resources and the right expenditure of funding to get these kids on the right track? Because I'm seeing what you're talking about at the mission school this week alone. 4 and 5 year olds inappropriately behavior sexually. So that is not going to stop. In my opinion, it's a learned behavior from somewhere else. But we just don't have the resources here. We have finances, but we don't have the resources or the right ones that are redirecting these kids. And we're seeing a drop as well as the number of people that want to go into the teaching profession. How does the city council help move that needle in the other direction?
Yeah, I mean, I think number one, the city council, can wield what I'm hoping would be a giant flashlight on the system, so we can have hearings, find out from parents, from service providers, from the administration, what is happening in the system, why certain schools, struggle to provide, a gym teacher or a music teacher, or even an occupational therapist, while other schools have that kind of stuff, and figure out where the gaps are, and maybe where we have some bad habits in administration. Two is review of the budget. The city council does have some more power over the budget, and just to have just require some explanations from the superintendent on how decisions are being made and why they're being made. And the third is to advocate with the mayor and the mayor's office to make sure that concerns in the school system are being met, because the city council, I'm hoping, will be supportive of the mayor and and her progressive policies. Mm-hmm. But where we're not getting what we want in the school system, we can push back in other ways to make sure all of our kids are getting just the chance to have a world-class education here in Boston, which is not, I'm not sure is happening. But I will say, BPS, they whereas, like, if you just look at the scores and stuff like that, I do think it's not quite fair to Boston to place them on the same playing field as some of the schools in the suburbs. Our BPS, and I've seen this through my own kids. My son's at the Boston Arts Academy now. My daughter goes to the Curly. They have to deal with every issue that comes up. They have to deal with kids from all over the world. Kids speak, every kind of language, every kind of learning issue, every kind of economic background. Whereas I have friends who, or a friend who's a middle school teacher in Wellesley, and he's like, I don't have to deal with the same kinds of issues they deal with in BPS. And what I have seen is, that a lot of the teachers are do a great job. Boston Arts Academy brings together kids from all over the city. They are, my son's had a great experience, and I think those kinds of places, are doing it the right way, and I just think we need to make sure that gets applied across the city.
Right, and you, Dr. Bradley has something for you, but you're right in that regard. But one of the things that, like I said, from working in the schools on the public safety issue, there's been a big denial about that, and in some way, almost a cover-up of it, of not wanting to really deal with that, so that the learning can take place. And I told you, if you don't have a safe environment, as you said, your friend in Wellesley is probably not dealing with the type of violence and the type of interruptions in education from what we're seeing in schools. And it's not just inside the schools, it's spilling over into the public, the South Bay Mall, the Burger King up at Columbia Road and what. So this isn't just impacting the schools, it's also impacting the neighborhoods that these kids are growing up and living in. And there seems to be a denial of dealing with that behavior of our young people here in the city of Boston as well.
Well, I'm thinking that. I'm sorry. Go on. I can wait.
No, I was just going to say, I agree. I think we need to have an emphasis on youth programs. I've been spending time in the Mildred Haley apartments the last few weeks, and they have a youth center, but they don't have a full-time youth coordinator to help run the programs. And I think you and I have probably talked about there's been sort of a sort of pendulum of or rising gang violence occasionally, and it's here in JP and Jackson Square, and the people work to get folks into youth programs, and they kind of age out of that behavior and environment, and then the next generation comes up, and I do think that part of that allocation of resources, we need to make sure that our kids have constructive activities and programs and access to that stuff.
Well, my question was going to be more around, and I don't know if it's a question for you or for the young man here, is that
Ben Weber.
How are we getting to that $31,000 per student? How are we calculating that through the budget, or are we actually taking out the cost for personnel and then
that's included, right? That's included, and you raise a very good question. Is that a lot of that is most people would look in, if you go in and dive in, it is we're very top heavy at BPS with administrative costs. They spend over $80 million or more just on busing alone, and when you think about that most kids above the seventh grade get T passes. So how efficient are we really spending $80 million?
Yeah. So my question would be, so is that $30,000? Is it really less than that because we're putting money into other areas that's supporting education? How much money going directly to educating the student?
That's a good question. I'm not sure if it's been broken down into that factor, but I think when that $31,000 tag price tag is what it costs in factoring all of those things in.
Okay, and that might be very well it. I mean, I think it's important because I think it's for analytical purposes. It's important to know, what is the total cost associated with education and education itself, and what is the total cost for education alone.
Yeah,
I think, but I still think it will far exceed surrounding cities and towns just by the vast of the size of it.
But not just that of their income base, because they don't have the tax resources that Boston does, because they don't have the infrastructure, right? So again, we're not lacking finances here. Matter of fact, we're building ourselves into a concrete jungle here in the city of Boston.
But and I also, my other comment would be is that I anticipate personally, and this is Dr. Bradley speaking, a significant change in the quality of education as gentrification moves forward throughout the city. I think that when people coming in and they're paying a huge amount of money for property and for rent and for whatever have you to stay in the city, that there's going to be a huge demand on politicians to provide a quality education. Because I am not paying. Watch this now. I'm not paying like you to send my daughter. If I like you said, if I'm living in the city of Boston, and pay for that individual to go to school at the same time when I'm paying this kind of rent or I'm paying this kind of money for a home. So I think it's going to be a tremendous amount of pressure on leadership, the governmental leadership, to address the education issue. To make sure that all schools, because there's no reason why all schools in Boston can't be like the exam schools in Boston.
They should
At one point, Boston was one of the prestigious public education institutions in the world, not
Right.
the country, the world.
Right.
Kings and queens send their kids here to go to this. We can get back to that,
Right.
all right? But, it's going to take both sides of this equation, not just the politician. That's one of the things that I think that we do wrong. And I was at Randolph Public Schools. I looked at it as, you're just outsourcing your education to me. I was not there when the child was conceived. I was not there when the child was built and these social bases block in their homes. It's going to take a combination of parent and school, parent and administrator in school, parents and teachers to actually make sure the child is getting the education that he or she needs to be successful in a world market. That's my hit.
No, all right. So Ben, to follow up on the school, because then I want to move on to some other subject matter. Is that last year was the final year in Boston that we had middle schools. There were 3 left. They've eliminated the middle schools, and now we have our younger people in the schools. And even though they say there's some separation, not as much as I would like to see. And what I'm seeing already is making me uncomfortable, where we have no longer middle schools in Boston any longer. It's 7 through 12 and K through 7. And we're seeing older kids preying on these younger minds. What's your thoughts on this transformation? I know it's because of population drop, where the numbers have dropped. They're merging more schools together, but I think we're going to pay a great price for that as well.
Well, I do know at the Curly they go through grade 8, and my son went to 8th grade at the Mission Hill School, and it was certainly helpful for him to do 7th and 8th grade, not in a high school environment. So, I don't know, and I'm not going to, sort of Monday morning quarterback that decision. But I certainly think it's important to get explanations from, the powers that be on how this is working, and whether, our kids feel safe and secure, and that they're not worrying about how to deal with kids who are 6 years older than them when they're in that environment. So I'm interested to see if it actually produces better outcomes. I guess just getting to the prior point, I do think that the changes to the testing system are going to make our those top schools more equitable for kids across the city, and that we're going to see sort of all those schools. My hope is all 3 of the testing schools will kind of improve as you get a more representative sort of student body at each school. So I think we're going to be changing the way we think about those schools, and hopefully that'll give us a model for how to help more kids get kind of the quality education.
Well, sounds like we got a lot of work to do there.
I think, and I commend him on that. I think, and I do appreciate, as a retired Boston police officer who have taken many exams, brother, I do appreciate what you did in terms of working in your area of profession to make sure that the examinations were fair. I have many times, as a former commander of the Boston Police Department, and I discussed this at the table, as it relates to making policy, we're oftentimes using information that was not even remotely relevant, as it relates to actually supervising our people. So I do commend you, and I appreciate you, what you did. My wife is going to benefit from that. You know what I mean? So,
he's already spent it.
So indirectly, I am. But you really addressed something that troubled me for over 2 decades in the Boston Police Department. And I happened to be able to migrate my way or work my way up the ranks. But it was not easy. And even when I test high, I was put in environments so that I can look stupid because of what I look like. So I do appreciate that. And so, but I think the other component of the school, to get back to the school issue, is that we can do all we can with making sure that the environment is right, making sure that the students are getting the information, getting the knowledge, but we also have to work on the parent participation
question.
component of that, because
That is
that
what's
makes
missing.
that's what's missing. You look at the exam schools, although we may change that, but that piece, the other piece there is that parent is very involved in that education.
Well, we have a lot of examples. We have the MECO system where it's required and you must, right? And we should have that same emphasis here in the Boston Public Schools. You listen to At the Roundtable with MAMLEO. The calling number here is 617-282-0685. 617-282-0685. Ben, I want to pivot. I know the schools dominate a lot of the time, as they should. You know, we allude to housing, living in the city of Boston has almost become unattainable for most people, and particularly people of color here in the city of Boston. A lot of this, I don't know who defines affordable housing, and when there is it's you know, when people see a structure go up and they say, oh, it's going to be affordable housing, there may be 3-4 units out of 100 units. It's not a lot when you have the demand, and our seniors are impacted. What, if anything, you think that the city council can do to help address this inequity? Because, I mean, the average price in a home in Boston, and I think that's something you've got to fix up, is over $700,000. And that's just not attainable to most people who are just working paycheck to paycheck here in the city of Boston. It's not even affordable to rent here in Boston, but it's also affecting the workforce here in Boston, because most jobs in the city of Boston, of the 17,000 plus, you have to be a resident here in the city of Boston. We're seeing it in the law enforcement. We're seeing the largest decline of people wanting to be law enforcement. We're seeing it also in city government services, because people just can't afford to live here.
Yeah, I completely agree. You know, the housing costs are a major problem that we have to deal with, and use all the tools that we have. You know, I'm in support of there's the rent stabilization. The city council passed it. It's now before the state legislature on a home rule petition. You know, I think we can put a lot more pressure on the state legislature to pass the home rule petition, so to allow us to at least, you know, put reasonable caps on rent increases to allow people to stay where they are. The city can also increase access to the city housing voucher program, which I support, which would allow, you know, again, families to meet those costs, and that program is also available to families with mixed immigration status as an added benefit. And in terms of you know, also reducing the cost of homes, we need to create more housing, and so we now have this IDP plan, which is going to raise the requirement for the number of affordable units in new construction. The problem is, you know, what's affordable as defined by that IDP isn't so so affordable.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, so an affordable unit is basically it's affordable to a family of 4 that makes $84,000 a year, $85,000 a year, which you know, when I first moved here, I worked for the AG's office as an assistant attorney general. We had a 1-year-old. My wife wasn't working. I was making $55,000 a year. I couldn't afford it. That kind of you know, that kind of place, I think. So we need to look at that and make sure that affordable units are actually affordable. So I think that's a problem. But you know, the last part is just getting stuff built, and we need to. You know, they're looking at changing the zoning laws to allow for, you know, more as of right construction, you know, near public transportation and things like that, and just actually get things done, because there's a lot of resistance every time someone proposes a project. You know, there's lots of people who are just opposed to everything, and we need to, you know, sort of manage that and get through that process and get stuff built. And I think that's going to help.
So what about the residency requirement, Ben? For police and fire, you have to live in the city for 10 years. Your first 10 years, you can move out. I mean, I'm seeing for the first time in my career of over 38 years where we're advertising on police cruises for dispatchers, and I don't know what's coming next, because folks are, when they're coming here, they're realizing, like I said, that when you talked about, I don't see those things happening anytime soon, where that's going to impact people to be able to financially live here. People working for the city, even police officers, you've got to work some long hours if you're just starting out here to try to save for a home. Would you be open to any type of assistance to city workers because of the mandatory that they live here, or relaxing that residency rule to allow people to live where they can afford to live as long as they're coming to work every day?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have an issue with the police department. You know, we, in terms of, sorry, I've got some dogs barking in the background, but, you know, there's been a huge decrease in the number of new police officers, you know, people even going to the police academy. You know, we need a well-functioning police department, you know, here in the city. And yeah, I'm open to, you know, relaxing the residency requirements where we can't, you know, find qualified people here in the city. That's going to help us, you know, fill out the ranks, you know, with qualified people, because it is the housing costs and you know, makes it so difficult to be here, and to you know, exclude people from the police department because of the residency requirement, I don't think is doing us a lot of good.
But it's not just the police; it's also in the other agencies, because most city employees have to live in the city. But if you're a librarian making $50,000, or there's a posting for a job making $50,000 as a librarian here in the city of Boston, it's not attractive. I know I just saw something recently where they had some jobs posting where they waived the residency because they couldn't find anyone in the city of Boston, one that had the qualifications for those positions. One had to do with cutting down trees. But the fact that a lot of people declined to even apply because it just costs too much to live here. And there's very little land I'm seeing that's going to be up, in the cost to put up a structure. It doesn't make it attractive for developers to put up affordable housing. One of the issues at MAMLEO, we've been trying with the city for the last 5 years, honestly, or more, on the vacant lot we have on our headquarters there, to put up housing to help out stabilize some of our seniors, to put up affordable housing. And the pushback we've gotten from the city under this administration is just been awful. For trying to do something positive. And I'm not sure if you're familiar, he was on a call earlier in the 7 o'clock hour, T. Michael Thomas, the People's Academy. If you're familiar with it, it's a job training program. He has the lot there at Quincy and Warren Street, right across from Latin Academy. He's been trying to get that infrastructure there so that people can be trained that in jobs that could help them to be able to be afford to live here in the city of Boston. But there seems to be a really intentional in stopping productive things here in the city of Boston, or organizations or groups that are trying to stabilize this people's place here in the city. And a lot of pushback from very few councils. I mean, there's only a few councils down there that I've been able to work with, like Aaron Murphy, Flaherty, Ed Flynn, the Baker, some of the reasonable ones. And I know there's a lot of frustration there. Like Flaherty's not running again because of dysfunction that's going on there. When you have the Boston Globe describing the city council as a clown show, that says a lot.
Yeah, certainly when you hear about, you know, programs like that aren't being allowed to, you know, sort of come to fruition because of government, you know, sort of mismanagement. You know, that's part of the reason why I'm running. You know, I've been helping my clients, you know, for 18 years navigate these sort of complex systems, you know, like in our police exam cases. And, you know, I think that I can be part of the solution on the city council. And you know, part of that is to, you know, get us what we need here in the city, which are, you know, programs for the youth, it's housing getting built, and, you know, just a sense that, you know, the city council is doing, you know, good work, and, you know, is trying to help people all across the city. With that said, I do have to run. Okay. I'm coaching. We have a soccer game on Hyde Park Avenue at 9 a.m. A big that matchup with Bedford, JP Lions versus the Bedford, I don't know, Dragons or something. bit of rivalry. No, I'm kidding. It's a tough matchup for us.
So before we let you go, Ben, just a reminder, folks, of the office you're running for, the position, and the elections on Tuesday, and give them your final pitch on why they should come out and vote for you, sir.
Yeah, thanks. Tuesday's the election for city council. There's going to be 4 at-large seats up for election, and there's 9 district seats. I'm running in District 6. If you live in JP, West Roxbury, the front side of Mission Hill, come out and vote. I hope you'll vote for me. I've been endorsed by our mayor, Michelle Wu. I've been endorsed by my state rep, Sam Montano. I've been endorsed by the Boston Globe. I've been endorsed by nearly every labor and service worker union here in the city, because I've raised 2 kids here, been here 15 years. I understand sort of the pitfalls of the Boston public school system, and as an attorney for 18 years, I've worked really hard and try to represent my clients and advocate for them in a way that's going to get them practical results, like Harold Lipton and Steve Churchill and I were able to do, in the police exam cases. And so, I just want to do the same for, my friends and neighbors here in District 6, and I hope you'll vote for me on Tuesday.
Well, Ben, thank you. Like I said, you personally have my support, and because you've been a responsible adult, which there hasn't been many on the council, and I say that on my behalf. So look forward to you serving there, someone we can call, and if we have a disagreement, we can have with an adult and not a perpetual child. So thank you, and good luck on Tuesday, and we'll talk after the election. Hopefully we'll make this a regular conversation once you are installed on the council. Ben Weber, city council candidate for the District 6 for this upcoming Tuesday, November 7th. So,
but Larry,
I know he's got to go. We got to call him.
Let him go. Ben, you can go.
Yeah, we're going to take the call. You can listen off.
Thank you. Okay. I'll let you go.
All right, thanks.
But I want to say
thank you very much, and have a great day.
But I want to say that this brother, although he's running for city council, I think his mindset. I think someone like that should be a mayor. For the city, right. Honestly, I think you need that type of progression, right. that thinking to do it. Well, I'm sorry.
No, and you're right. But the difference too is that people claim that's what they're running on, but they have no record of it, right?
This guy has a record of. That's what I'm saying.
Right. You identify, right? You can see tangible things that they've done that they didn't have to do, right? Could have played the comfortable role, right? But they chose not to. They chose to do what's right, not what's
They chose
expedient.
the tough fight.
Exactly.
They chose the tough fight. To take the tough
fight. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And I hope to do this again as a city councilor, maybe next week.
Yeah.
Thanks, Larry.
Good. All right. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the round table. Yeah. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the round table. Can we get rid of Ben's caller? Yeah. Yep. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, caller. Are you there?
Yep. Okay, we'll see if we can get that worked out.
But anyway, I think that's the kind of conceptual type of thinking that you need in terms of how things can move forward, where the city should be. And I know you have to start somewhere. Yep. I'm not saying I'm saying to him, and I hope he's still listening. Yep. Don't limit yourself, because I think Boston needs that. It needs to be able to address the school issue, address the housing issue, the homeless issue. You know what I mean? Well, and face it head on, and not try to hide behind political, creative, apparatus and stunts to get things done. No, face it right.
Well, and that's the thing, is that people run for these positions, Dr. Bradley, and then when they're confronted when they're not doing it, then they get angry, and then they want to become confrontational. When you're saying, wait a minute, this was your platform, this is what you ran on, you said you had the solutions to these problems. It's easy to say you have them. than actually go out there and implement
But
them.
if you come back to say, I thought I had the solution, but I really don't, I have to come back, this is bigger than what I thought it was,
Right.
I think you would get more respect than
I
trying to
think you-
manipulate it. You know what I mean? And try to
Listen,
finagle the bagel.
Are
know?
you saying that you want a politician to admit that they've been wrong?
What
about
I'm saying?
something? Are you saying that you
know,
think that a politician would say, I
but-
got it wrong?
But I'm thinking the politicians are wrong when they don't do that, because what they actually project is an air of just being disingenuous, and when people are smart enough to pick that up, and so when you're disingenuous, the next time around, that's what sticks in my mind when it's time for me to vote for you.
Right, but the problem with that is that's logical thinking, right? And then they blame you because now they will view you as a troublemaker.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you're saying, they push it back and say, well, what are you doing to address this problem? I didn't run
for office,
and
that's why I didn't run for office, because I couldn't address the problem.
Right. I mean, a perfect example is that we were talking about earlier, mass and cast. Right. We know that it's difficult for anyone to fix that problem with the people, because all we're doing right now is relocating it temporarily. Right. I say it's like having the bears, right? Like I equate it to bears. You might get these folks to agree to move away from there right now because it's cold outside, right? And they want to be in shelter. But come spring, when most bears wake up and they're out there, they go out exploring. And we've seen this before. They will be back down there again, right? Because the weather is nice and you don't mind being out there. I mean, who goes camping in the wintertime? No one, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Unless you live in Alaska, and even then, they, also it's one of those shows. But when it's nice out, everyone wants to be outdoors.
Well, you camp in the wintertime in Alaska if you have a heating source. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
right.
And these people will try to have a heating source. But you're right. It's easy today because nature is your ally.
Right.
And the cold weather is your ally. But what happens when it shifts? What is the permanent solution? That's what you're asking.
To perfect example of that is you look at states and cities around the country that don't have winters like we do, right? San Francisco, places like that have not been able to get rid of their encampments because the weather, they don't have snow like we do. They don't have really cold weather like we do, so folks can bear it. If it gets down to 30, 40 degrees in those places, that's not an everyday occurrence.
It's only an aberration. It's temporary.
Exactly. But again, there's an election on Tuesday, Dr. Bradley. We're here. The phone should be ringing off the hook with people, having an opinion, or is there a candidate they're supporting and why?
Well, I do agree with you on that, Larry. But on the other side of that argument, what interests me is that when you drive around, you see very little indication that is an election. It's like everybody's quiet. You know what I mean? Why is that the case? Why isn't it so that it should be a buzz going on whenever there's an election?
But here's the thing. There's no buzz going on. There's no neon sign in front of your house, but you're gonna go out and participate in this,
absolutely.
right? So you get engaged. It's like I said, if there was one sign that said Taylor Swift or Beyonce was going to be okay, right? That's all it would take.
Yeah,
the buzz would be created.
Well, I laugh because I'm going through Instagram, which I very seldom do, but I do have one of the social media applications that I have. And as soon as I never seen such youthful interest in football until Kelsey started dating Taylor Smith.
Right. Okay.
Swift, whatever her name
Right,
is.
Taylor Swift. Right.
Where's all this energy's coming
exactly.
from?
The ratings go up when she's in
yeah.
the box, right?
Yeah,
She's
exactly.
following him around,
Yeah.
right? But this is my point. That folks can get interested in what they want, things that have no value to them whatsoever.
That's a valid
Right.
point.
So that's what I'm saying is that you can put all the billboard signs out there and the sandwich, and if folks don't seem to make the connection that Taylor Swift and the running back for the Kansas City Chiefs,
It's tight end.
Kelsey,
Travis Kelsey.
has no bearing on them. They're flying around in private jets in the owners' boxes, right? And yet, your situation is getting any better, but you're taking more of an interest in their lives than your own.
Yeah.
Good morning, caller. Welcome to the round table.
Good morning. And they has value as them. Okay, this is Rhodes calling again.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just thinking of like the issue that you'd mentioned, the fact that certain cities can't combat their homeless problem because of the weather.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe we should return to Texas to, the favor to Texas and Florida. With their government sending the immigrants. We'll take the people that want to work and looking for work and looking for housing, and we can send them all the people.
Send the mass and cast people down to Texas.
Send the mass and cast people down there. And they don't want. Yeah, they're Americans.
Yeah, they're U.S. citizens.
Well, it's a nice thought, but it's constitutionally invalid. But anyway,
Texas,
you can do
the
it.
governor down there, Abbott doesn't
Yeah.
think so. And
Yeah.
what's his name there? The one with the lifts, DeSantis, who I thought he was going to be the next president. He'd be lucky if he get
There's a guy who-
reelected.
he wears the high heel compact boots.
Yeah, I mean, you know, this is taking a big blow to his ego.
Yo, I bet
because
it is.
He just thought he was on the fast track. To
Well,
be-
actually, he was actually accommodating or pleading to the. Remember, I talked about the redemptionist side of
Yeah.
America who want to go back to white supremacy.
but
the
Trump
way
has
it is.
already taken that.
Trump
So
has already taken
Yeah,
taken that role. He's already there.
They always say, if you can have the real thing, like remember when Coke switched from the original recipe, and they said, "No, we want the real thing."
Yeah.
So Trump is their real redemptionist.
yeah,
So
yep.
this guy here said, "Nah, that tastes too much like Pepsi."
Need a little bit more. Need a little bit more sugar in this one.
Yeah,
You know, a little bit
exactly.
more. Carbonated water or something.
Right. But Rhodes, I'm sure that there's an election in your town on Tuesday as well, right?
In Sharon,
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Oh, come on. I've seen the signs and you live there. I drive through
Yeah,
there.
there's election.
There's election. The city, most of the cities
most
in
of
town,
most of the cities and towns in the Commonwealth.
they have a city
election,
council or school committee. That's another thing.
It's definitely in Randolph.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
I see it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
I-
definitely in
I-
I
Randolph.
see it in all these little small towns.
Yeah.
It's but again, what I'm not seeing is in these communities that are impacted by these things, as you alluded to as well, earlier about, as Ben was saying about, his friends who teach in Wellesley. Yeah, they're not distracted by a lot of the distractions here. If I'm dealing with discipline, and those schools have discipline problems, but if they call the parent, they're going to get a response from the parent. This week alone, if people really knew what was going on in the Boston Public Schools, and until it hits them, as a human being, you would be appalled. You'd be appalled. You'd be appalled when you have 10-year-olds that are sexually assaulting 4-year-olds on buses. You would be appalled. I mean, as a parent, as a human being, and you feel powerless to do anything.
You're right, and I have had that in my role as a director of climate and safety at Randolph Public Schools. Not to that extent, but I have had some situations that kind of make you, your eyebrows rise and say, what's happening? The child has to get it from somewhere. The child is seeing it somewhere. You know what I mean? Which brings the light, shines the spotlight on the parent, or elder, older sibling or something. And so that's why I say, I said to the young man, don't lose sight of that, the parent role. That must be a part. And how do you get that happening? How do you encourage it? I don't know if it's through fiat or through policy or whatever the case may be, but we have to do something as a society to make sure that the parents are responsible, or parents are responsible for their children while they're in school. And that's what I think you would see differently in the Wellesley. You have problems in Wellesley.
You do.
You have, but the parent plays a role.
But
in
I bet that same
resolution.
parent is going out on Tuesday and voting as well.
Absolutely.
To make sure that
Absolutely.
the people that they're paying to oversee their school system in their budget is nowhere near the Boston Public Schools are making sure they're getting what they're paying for.
And that parent has resources to address the issue that the disciplinary issues that child must be experiencing.
Right.
But the parent plays a role. A lot of times we want to outsource our education and the administration of the education and the disciplinary issues to the school, and that's it.
Well, we think that the school is the only person charged with educating. But again, if education is something that you value in your home or something that you see fit, because I was talking to you off air in probably a good segue. I don't know if you've seen it as well, Rhodes. I was watching Basic Black last night. Matter of fact, Tanisha Sullivan was hosting. She did a great job. And I saw the billboard on the highway, but I'm always driving too fast to really see what it actually said about there's free education for people over the age of 25. There's funding there, full for the state schools, and the president of Roxbury Community College was on there. And and it pays for books, tuition, all that. But they're saying that the money is running out because people are finding out about it, and it's not folks that look like us, and they're tapping into it.
Well, Governor Healy, from my understanding,
signed
a bill.
Yes.
And the bill basically said if you're in school, if you graduated from a school in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you have not had any college experience before.
If you haven't graduated from a college.
Right. You can go to a community school, a community college free of charge. The Massasoit community colleges are run by the state.
Right. I saw the billboard for Massasoit.
Yeah, Massasoit. You can go to Bunker Hill, Roxbury Community, and those are quality education. You have PhDs like myself who are teaching. In fact, I teach at Massasoit. I teach the criminal justice, history of criminal justice, police personnel, law. I teach there. Right. So you have quality education at those institutions, but they're free of charge.
But the caveat is that's why it's not unlimited.
It's not unlimited.
They were saying that
it's not unlimited.
Most people don't know that the funding is drying up.
Well, most people don't know. Most people like us do not know about the program at all. Right. So the funding is drying up because the people who are
taking
advantage of it real quickly. Right. And so what's happening, and this is the piece that they are not telling you, what's happening is that with those schools, all right, those 2-year associate degree, and I have my associate's degree from Fisher. I can tell you that I would never, ever see that degree as disparaging at all because it helped me, as a platform to call upon my education. But what's happening here is that with that community college, there's a sister school, 4-year degree, or have bachelor's or master's degree that's working with that community college in structuring their curriculum. So when you have successfully graduated from like the Quincy colleges or the Massasoits, you can now go through like the Curry colleges or the BUs or Northeasterns and get your bachelor's and also get into a 5-year master's program. So you can actually start your education at no cost and then limit the cost or reduce seriously the cost to get a higher degree.
That's right.
That's the piece that people are not connecting to.
And you raise a very good point, because if I go to a 2-year school, Roxbury Community College, it's a lot cheaper than going to Northeastern for 4 years. But my bachelor's will say Northeastern University, right? So I've gotten 2 years at a discount or free, right? If I apply to this program that they just started at the state. Your RCC diploma, people say, but your bachelor's, the one that's really going to help you, elevate you, it's going to say Northeastern.
It's not going to say RCC and Northeastern.
Right.
It's going to say going to say Northeastern.
Right.
All right. And then when you look at, I can give you my career, my academic path. When I went back to school, when I was back to school, it was back in the 20th century. So Fisher College at that point was a junior college, which was equivalent to community college. Yeah. It was a 2-year school. That's the way I'm going. Yeah. So when I got my degree, it said Associates in Business Administration, Fisher Junior College. Yeah. Then when I got my bachelor's, it said a bachelor's in Computer System and Management, Johnson & Wales University. All right. It didn't say Fisher College. It said Johnson & Wales University. Then when I got my master's, it said Master's in Criminal Justice, Boston University. Right. And so and a doctorate as well. And so what you're doing is each school is issuing their degree.
Right. But not only that, gentlemen, working in the school, Boston Public Schools, I encourage most of the students. One of the young men I mentor, he's now a detective in the Boston Police Department, Fabian, who I mentored, he wanted to go to a 4-year school, and I told him, look, I don't think you're ready for that. It's intimidating for a lot of young people who've just struggled to get through 4 years of high school. Now you're talking about another 4 years. It sounds like it's not attainable. Do the 2 years. If you haven't been prepared and you really they haven't prepared you in the Boston public school system, 2 years doesn't sound like so far out as 4 years. Do that junior college first. That doesn't intimidate you because the first year goes by like that. But when you're talking about another 4 years to most of these kids,
I think that was sound advice, and I took that route as well. So I can't say it wasn't sound to help me. But one of the things that I thought that it did for me immensely improve on me was the time management. A lot of college is about time management because you have professors like myself who would give you a multitude of work in a 5-day period, but it's all structured around a larger objective. You know, so if you don't actually manage your time correctly, you can easily get lost in the myriad of assignments that you may have from myself and other professors. But if you manage your time correctly, and then that is a skill set that you can that easily transferable into your daily and your private life. So my recommendation would be, you know, focus on time management. Capitalize, because we're talking about money, Jack. You know what I mean? You capitalize on the fact that you can get a free education, and then from that free education, you can move on to a higher degree.
Well, you've got to go. Rhodes, you want to stand by, or we've got to take our break?
I'll stand by.
Okay. All right. You've been listening to the Round Table with MAMLEO. Our director is telling me, cut. We got to go. We'll be right back.
Dr. Bradley, shut up.
So if I never see ya, never get the chance to meet ya. No, I came up from the bottom, always rooting for the underdog.
I wrote 300 songs in 1 year, Boogie will tell you I'm on it. I got unreleased songs for days, they don't want it. Eat any MC in the game, it ain't a challenge. If your music reflects who you are, then you's a coward. I can see through the lies you ain't living what you spitting. If your money's so long, why your dog's in prison? Why your baby mom's stripping? Why your mom's still living in that same broken home that you used to sell piffin'? You ain't gotta lie to me to sell me a track. You ain't gotta rock fake jewels or walk around strap. I respect artists getting money, but love them for spitting crack. And the fact that one track can move a family out the trap. It's a dream for us lost souls brought up in the mix. I'm motivated by the artists coming out in my midst, and the artists that paved the way when I didn't exist. Music's a skyscraper, I'm just trying to add a couple bricks.
This is for the dreamers. They say I am a dreamer, cause I still believe that anything is possible as long as you work hard.
Hustle real hard, hustle real hard, hustle real hard, hustle
So if I never see ya, never get the chance to meet ya. No, I came up from the bottom, always rooting for the underdog.